Hello everyone, very good morning to all of you. Welcome to Exampur. Today we are going to continue the series into the NCERT Political Science Class 8. The next chapter, that is chapter 5, which talks about the judicial system of India, that is the Indian judiciary. What is judiciary, how it works, what are the hierarchies and all, what are the levels in the judiciary, what is the role and function of the judiciary, all of these things we are going to discuss today in this particular chapter. Okay, the chapter is chapter 5, that is NCERT class 8, chapter 5, that is the judiciary. Okay, so let's move ahead with the chapter. What is the role of judiciary? So courts take decisions on a very large number of issues. They can decide that no teacher can beat a student, or about the sharing of river waters between the states, or they can punish people for particular crimes. Broadly speaking, the work that judiciary does can be divided into the following. The work that judiciary does can be divided into the following. So first is dispute resolution. What are the works of judiciary? The first one is the dispute resolution. Okay, so the judicial system provides a mechanism for resolving disputes between citizens and the government, between two state governments, and between the center and state governments. So first one is the dispute resolution. Dispute किसके किसके बीच में? So dispute यानी कि विवाद, dispute किसके किसके बीच में हो सकता है? So it is disputes between the citizens, between one person and another, between citizens and the government. Okay, that is a citizen versus a government. Okay, and apart from that, between two state governments, and the next between the center and state governments. So it works as a dispute resolution organization. Supreme Court or the High Court or any kind of courts, they work as a dispute resolution organization. Next, judicial review. So you might remember the theory of checks and balances given by Montesquieu. We have discussed that there are three wings of democracy. Wing 1, that is legislature. Wing 2, that is executive. Wing 3, that is judiciary. तीनों के अलग-अलग काम हैं. Judiciary के काम में हमने क्या देखा था कि that it can review any law passed by the legislature and can think about that law, that whether the law is right or wrong. So this is known as the judicial review. As the final interpreter of the Constitution, the judiciary also has the power to strike down particular laws passed by the parliament if it believes that these are violation of the basic structure of the Constitution. This is called judicial review. Okay, so the judiciary is having the authority to review the laws passed by the parliament. Okay, the judiciary has the authority to review the laws passed by the parliament, and if the judiciary finds out that the law passed by parliament or any legislature is contradicting or violating any of the provisions of the Constitution, then the judiciary has the authority to declare that particular law immediately as invalid. Okay, and that is non-constitutional, that is null and void. So second work is the judicial review. The third role, upholding the law and enforcing fundamental rights. Into the third role of judiciary, that is the upholding the law and enforcing the fundamental rights. So every citizen of India can approach the Supreme Court or the High Courts if they believe that their fundamental rights have been violated. Okay, so जैसे कि अगर हम जानते हैं कि इंडिया में हायरार्की होती है ना कि लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल कोई एक नॉर्मल केस है तो उसे सबसे पहले हम कहां लेकर जाते हैं? इनटू द लोकल कोर्ट्स, द सबऑर्डिनेट कोर्ट्स, हमारे जो लोकल जो अदालत होती हैं, है ना, कचहरी हमारे डिस्ट्रिक्ट कोर्ट जो होती हैं, तो हम वहां लेकर जाते हैं. वहां से कोई जजमेंट आया तो उस जजमेंट से अगर आप खुश नहीं हो तो आप उसे चैलेंज कर सकते हो कहां? हाई कोर्ट में. हाई कोर्ट से कोई जजमेंट आया, आप उस जजमेंट से भी खुश नहीं हो तो आप उसे कहां चैलेंज कर सकते हो? फाइनली इनटू द सुप्रीम कोर्ट. ओके, बट अगर केस आपके फंडामेंटल राइट्स से रिलेटेड है, इफ द केस इज रिलेटेड विथ योर फंडामेंटल राइट्स, देन यू एज अ सिटीजन हैज गॉट द अथॉरिटी टू स्किप दिस हायरार्की. That is, you can skip the district courts or the local courts and directly approach the High Court or the Supreme Court. इसे हम कहते हैं आर्टिकल 32 के थ्रू हम सीधा सुप्रीम कोर्ट में जा सकते हैं और आर्टिकल 226 के थ्रू हम सीधा हाई कोर्ट में जा सकते हैं. ओके, बट यस, ओनली इफ इट इज द केस ऑफ फंडामेंटल राइट्स. and not in the general cases. अगर fundamental rights का violation हुआ है, then the individual citizen has got the right to move directly to Supreme Court under Article 32 without following the hierarchy, that is the district courts and the high courts, and under Article 226 directly approach to the high court without following hierarchy, that is the district courts. Okay, so moving at this point. So for example, in class 7th book we have read about Hakim Sheikh, an agricultural laborer who fell from a running train and injured himself, and whose conditions got worse because several hospitals refused to admit him. On hearing his case, the Supreme Court ruled that Article 21, which provides every citizen the fundamental right to life, also include the right to health. So it therefore directed the West Bengal government to pay him compensation for the loss suffered, as well as to come up with a blueprint for primary health care with particular reference to treatment of patients during an emergency. Okay, so this was the Paschim Bengal Khet Mazdoor Samiti versus the state of West Bengal 1996. This is a case, this is a scenario which we have discussed while discussing the NCERT class 7 political science series. Okay, so another role is, that is upholding the fundamental rights. Okay, that is the final, this is the role is upholding the fundamental rights. Okay, upholding the law and enforcing the fundamental rights. So next thing which is to be read, what is an independent judiciary? Okay, what is an independent judiciary? So imagine a situation in which a powerful politician has encroached on a land belonging to your family. Within his judicial system, the politician has the power to appoint and dismiss a judge from his office. When you take this case to court, the judge is clearly partial to the politician. Right? The control that the politician holds over the judge does not allow for the judge to take an independent decision. This lack of independence would force the judges to make all judgments in favor of the politician. Although we often hear of rich and powerful people in India trying to influence the judicial process, the Indian Constitution protects against this kind of situation by providing for the independence of the judiciary. ओके अगर ऐसा होने लगे कि जो पॉलिटिशियंस हैं हमारे वही जजेस का अपॉइंटमेंट, ट्रांसफर, रिमूवल, प्रमोशन वगैरह करें, तो भाई फॉर श्योर यही होगा ना कि जजेस तो फिर पार्शियल हो जाएंगे, बायस्ड हो जाएंगे, ये कभी भी ट्रांसपेरेंटली काम कर ही नहीं पाएंगे. क्यों? क्योंकि उनकी जिंदगी, उनका करियर किसी दूसरे पॉलिटिशियन के हाथ में है. अब ऐसे में अगर किसी पॉलिटिशियन ने ही आपके साथ कुछ गलत किया है या आपको गवर्नमेंट से ही कुछ प्रॉब्लम है, तो फिर आप किसका दरवाजा खटखटाओगे? तो जस्टिस तो कभी मिलेगा ही नहीं, न्याय तो कभी मिलेगा ही नहीं भाई. तो हम जाएं कहां? तो ऐसे में हमने बात करी है इंडिपेंडेंट जुडिशरी की, द इंडिपेंडेंस ऑफ द जुडिशरी. नाउ व्हाट इज एक्चुअली द डेफिनेशन ऑफ इंडिपेंडेंस ऑफ जुडिशरी? सो लेट्स अंडरस्टैंड विद द रेस्ट ऑफ द पैरास. So one aspect of this independence is the separation of powers. So see, as I have quoted while explaining the theory of checks and balances, that the theory was having utmost importance in the whole political science series. And not just the political science, but in your whole UPSC syllabus, in your whole UPSC journey preparation, the theory of checks and balance is going to be along with you on your side in each and every subject. Why? Because it will talk about separation of powers. Separation of powers, financial powers, political powers, social powers, judicial powers, everything. Whether you talk about history, whether you talk about polity, whether you talk about economics, these things will be there, which you will have to deal with. Okay? So, independence of judiciary, अगर हम बात करें वापस से theory of checks and balances की, तो आपको याद होगा डेमोक्रेसी का जो थर्ड विंग है, सेकेंड विंग है और फर्स्ट विंग है, ये तीनों को हमने क्या बोला? ये तीनों एक दूसरे से इंडिपेंडेंट हैं. यानी कि एक दूसरे के काम में किसी भी टाइप का इंटरवेंशन नहीं देते हैं, सब अपना अपना काम करते हैं, बस एक दूसरे को चेक करते हैं और चेक करने के साथ साथ बैलेंस बरकरार रखते हैं. ओके, द बैलेंस कि भाई सब एक लेवल में बने रहें, कोई नीचे ना जाए, नीचे जाएगा तो ज्यादा पावरफुल हो जाएगा, बाकी के हल्के हो जाएंगे, हवा में उड़ जाएंगे और वो डिक्टेटर हो जाएगा फिर ज्यादा पावरफुल वाला. ओके, सो इंडिपेंडेंट है यानी कि एक दूसरे के काम में इंटरवीन नहीं करते हैं, एक दूसरे की प्रोसीडिंग्स में, एक दूसरे के प्रोसीजर्स में इंटरवीन नहीं करते हैं. सो दिस इज द वन थिंग, दैट वन एस्पेक्ट ऑफ दिस इंडिपेंडेंस इज द सेपरेशन ऑफ पावर्स. सो थ्योरी ऑफ चेक्स एंड बैलेंसेस वाज आल्सो नोन एज थ्योरी ऑफ सेपरेशन ऑफ पावर्स. So this is the exactly thing. This, as you read in chapter 1, is a key feature of the constitution. What this means here is that other branches of government, that is the legislature and the executive, cannot interfere in the work of the judiciary. And neither the judiciary can intervene into the works of the legislature and executive. And neither the executive and neither the legislature, neither in any of the organ will intervene in the works of any other. Okay, so the legislature and the executive cannot intervene in the works of the judiciary. The courts are not under the government and do not act on their behalf. So please understand this point very well. The courts are not under the government. Okay, that is government यानी कि legislature अलग है, executive अलग है, judiciary तीसरी wing है, वो अलग है. Okay, the courts are not under the government. Okay. For the above separation to work well, it is also crucial that all judges in the High Court as well as the Supreme Court are appointed with very little interference from these other branches of government. Once appointed to this office, it is also very difficult to remove a judge. Okay, judges का appointment और removal जो होता है, उसमें legislature का या executive का बहुत ही minimal role है. Major role किसका है? Judiciary का ही है. ओके, लेजिस्लेचर और एग्जीक्यूटिव का बहुत ही मिनिमल रोल वहां पर रखा गया है. ओके, दैट इज इनटू द अपॉइंटमेंट एंड रिमूवल ऑफ जजेस. सो इट इज द इंडिपेंडेंस ऑफ जुडिशरी that allows the courts to play a central role in ensuring that there is no misuse of power by the legislature and the executive. It also plays a crucial role in protecting the fundamental rights of citizens because anyone can approach the court if they believe that their rights have been violated. Okay, so this is actually the role of judiciary. So now what is the structure of courts in India? There are three different levels of courts in our country, as I discussed just a couple of minutes back, that district courts, high courts, and Supreme Court. Okay, so these are the three levels, the three hierarchies. So there are three different levels of courts in our country. There are several courts at the lower level, while there is only one at the apex level. The courts that most people interact with are what are called subordinate or district courts. जो आपके सबसे nearest है, यानी कि आपके city, आपके district में, वो है subordinate courts और the district courts, यानी कि जिला अदालत. Okay. These are usually at the district or tehsil level or in towns, and they hear many kinds of cases. Each state is divided into districts that are presided over by a district judge. Each state has a high court, which is the highest court of that state, and at the top is the Supreme Court, that is located in New Delhi and presided over by the Chief Justice of India. So right now, is the Chief Justice of India? Yes, is Mr. Bobde, Sharad A. Bobde. So the decisions made by the Supreme Court are binding on all the courts in India because वो सबसे senior है, सबसे बड़ा court है इंडिया का, तो उसके जो decisions हैं, जो उसके proceedings हैं, वो इंडिया के जो दूसरे सभी courts हैं, that is the high courts and other district courts, that is they are binding. Okay, these decisions are binding. So at the lower level here we can write district courts, then high courts, then the Supreme Court. Okay, this will be the pyramid of hierarchy. It will not be the inverted, but it will be absolutely the upright pyramid. So this is just some good information. So high courts were first established in the three presidency cities of Calcutta, Bombay and Madras in 1862. The High Court of Delhi came up in 1966, and currently there are 25 high courts. While many states have their own high courts, Punjab and Haryana share a common high court. Assam, Nagaland, Mizoram and Arunachal Pradesh have a common high court known as the Guwahati High Court. Andhra Pradesh, Amravati and Telangana, that is Hyderabad, have a separate high courts from 1 January 2019. Some high courts have benches in other parts of the state for greater accessibility. Okay. So this is just some small information. You can note it down as well. These are the good information. These are this type of the questions which you can face, then you can encounter them into the your prelims examination. Okay, so the high courts, they were established in the 3 presidencies of Calcutta, Bombay and Madras in 1862. ओके, दिल्ली का जो हाई कोर्ट है वो 1966 में बना है. प्रेजेंटली इंडिया में 25 हाई कोर्ट्स हैं. पंजाब और सबके लगभग अलग अलग हाई कोर्ट्स हैं, लेकिन पंजाब और हरियाणा के अपना एक कॉमन हाई कोर्ट है, दैट इज द चंडीगढ़ हाई कोर्ट दे आर हैविंग. देन अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट 4 नॉर्थ ईस्टर्न स्टेट्स ऑफ आसाम, नागालैंड, मिजोरम, अरुणाचल प्रदेश, दे हैव अ कॉमन हाई कोर्ट, दैट इज द गुवाहाटी हाई कोर्ट. देन आंध्र प्रदेश and Telangana, they have got a separate high courts from January 1, 2019 onwards. Okay, so some high courts have benches in other parts of the state for greater accessibility. Like for example, the Allahabad High Court is there in UP. So Allahabad High Court का अपना एक लखनऊ bench भी है. Okay, the Allahabad High Court is also having a Lucknow bench. Okay, of High Court, Allahabad High Court. Okay, so let's move ahead. So, are these different level of courts connected to each other? Yes, they are. In India, we have an integrated judicial system, meaning that the decisions made by the higher courts are binding on the lower courts. Another way to understand this integration is through the appellate system that exists in India. This means that a person can appeal to a higher court if they believe that the judgment passed by the lower court is not just, is not justice. Okay, so we discussed this point just a couple of minutes back कि आपके पास ना ऑप्शंस होते हैं. डिस्ट्रिक्ट कोर्ट में कोई केस गया है, उस जजमेंट से आप खुश नहीं हो, आप तो हायर कोर्ट में जा सकते हो. हायर कोर्ट जो है, हायर कोर्ट मतलब कि हाई कोर्ट जो है उसका जजमेंट है, उससे भी आप खुश नहीं हो तो आप सुप्रीम कोर्ट में भी जा सकते हो. तो ये क्या है, ये ना इंटीग्रेटेड जुडिशरी, यानी कि ये तीनों कोर्ट्स जो तीनों लेवल्स हैं ये आपस में कनेक्टेड है, ये अलग अलग नहीं है, ये एक ही है. बस ये बॉस, ओके, सबऑर्डिनेट बॉस, लोअर बॉस, ये सब ऐसे हैं. ओके, एक है अगर मान के चलो ऊपर सीईओ, एकदम मतलब द मेजर ओनर सीईओ, दूसरा हो गया एमडी यानी कि हाई कोर्ट हो गया मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर टाइप का समझ लो, और फिर नीचे जो डिस्ट्रिक्ट कोर्ट्स हैं वो समझ लो जनरल एम्प्लॉइज. ओके, सो दे आर इंटीग्रेटेड, दे आर वन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, दे आर नॉट अदर डिफरेंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस, दे आर वन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, द जुडिशरी. इसकी अपनी अलग अलग हायरार्की है. ओके, so we need not to go with the cases and all, that's not important for us. Okay, so what are the different branches of the legal system? Okay, what are the different branches of the legal system, that is the judicial system? So there was a case of dowry which was dealt earlier into the paragraphs. We need not to go with the cases and all. So the above case of dowry, death falls within what is considered a crime against society and is a violation of criminal law. So in addition to criminal law, the legal system also deal with civil laws. Okay, civil law cases. So there are 2 types of cases. One is the civil case, another one is the criminal case. Okay, so we read in chapter 4 of how a new civil law was passed in 2006 to protect women against domestic violence. Remember, Protection of Women Against Domestic Violence Act 2005. So look at the following table to understand some of the significant difference between civil and criminal law. So let's have a difference between the civil and criminal law. So what is a criminal law? So criminal law deals with the conduct or acts that law defines as offenses. Okay, so a criminal law deals with conduct or acts that the law defines as offenses. So for example, theft, harassing a woman to bring more dowry, murder, etc, etc, etc. Okay, so it usually begins with the lodging of an FIR, that is first information report, with the police who investigates the crime, after which a case is filed in the court. If found guilty, the accused can be sent to jail and also fined. This is the criminal law. Okay, this is the criminal law. Now another one is the civil law. deals with any harm or injury to rights of individual. What is civil law? It is not with regard to the life, but it's with regard to the right of the individual. For example, disputes relating to the sale of land, that is some property, purchase of goods, rent, divorce, etc. Okay, so here it is not the matter of life, but it is the matter of right. Okay, so like for example, property dispute, sale purchase, divorce cases, etc., yeah, tax cases and all. So this is how it is initiated. A petition has to be filed before the relevant court by the affected party only. Criminal case में आपको पुलिस के पास जाना होता है, सिविल केस में आपको पुलिस के पास नहीं जाना होता है, आपको कहां जाना होता है? सीधा कोर्ट के पास. ओके, इन अ रेंट मैटर ईदर द लैंडलॉर्ड और अ टेनेंट कैन फाइल अ केस, यानी कि अगर जो जिसका केस है वही जा सकता है, कोई भी नहीं. क्रिमिनल केस में तो कोई भी जाके कंप्लेंट फाइल करा सकता है, लेकिन सिविल केस में जिसका केस है बस वही जा सकता है. द कोर्ट गिव्स द स्पेसिफिक रिलीफ आस्क्ड फॉर. For instance, in a case between a landlord and a tenant, the court can order the flat to be vacated and pending rent to be paid. Okay, so these are not the criminal cases, but these are the civil cases. What is the difference? Criminal case, it affects the life. Civil case, it affects the right. Criminal case, firstly, FIR to be launched with the police. Civil case, no FIR with the police, just directly approach the judicial system. Okay? So let's move ahead with the questions, I believe now. Okay, now we have one more paragraph. So, does everyone have access to the courts? So, before reading the paragraph, answer is yes. Does everyone have access to the courts? Before proceeding further into the para, answer is yes. Okay. In principle, all citizens of India can access the courts in this country. In principle. Okay, that means in reality things might be difficult. Then things might be different. Why? Just because of the accessibility. So let's understand this point. So in principle, all citizens of India can access the courts in this country. This implies that every citizen has a right to justice through the courts. As we read earlier, the courts play a very significant role in protecting our fundamental rights. If any citizen believes that their rights are being violated, then they can approach the court for justice to be done. While the courts are available for all, in reality, access to courts has always been difficult for vast majority of the poor people in India. The people, those who are residing in the rural areas or into the remote areas. So legal procedures involves a lot of money and paperwork as well as a lot of time. So for a poor person who cannot read and whose family depends on a daily wage, the idea of going to the court to get justice often seems remote, often seems actually impossible, or often seems difficult. In response to this, the Supreme Court in the early 1980s devised a mechanism of PIL, Public Interest Litigation. आप सब लोगों ने ना मूवी तो देखी होगी जॉली LLB. जॉली LLB दो टाइप की, दो पार्ट्स में ये जॉली LLB 1, जॉली LLB 2, उसमें किसके ऊपर बनी है मूवी? PIL के ऊपर, Public Interest Litigation. So what is it? In response to this, the court in the early 1980s devised a mechanism known as PIL, that is Public Interest Litigation, to increase access to justice. It allowed any individual or organization to file a PIL in the High Court or the Supreme Court on behalf of those whose rights were being violated. So the point is, PIL कोई भी फाइल कर सकता है, जरूरी नहीं है सिर्फ विक्टिम ही. अगर आपको लगता है कि कोई विक्टिम है तो आप वहां पर PIL फाइल कर सकते हो. लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल, अगर आप जॉली LLB 1 मूवी को अगर आप याद करो, अगर आप देखो तो उसमें जो कैरेक्टर था जॉली, उसका केस नहीं था, केस तो शुरू होकर खत्म भी हो गया था, लेकिन उसको लगा कि नहीं थोड़ा सा लाइमलाइट में आएंगे, थोड़ा जस्टिस वगैरह की बात करेंगे, तो उसने PIL फाइल करके वो केस वापस से रीओपन करवाया. Okay, so that was the PIL, that is the Public Interest Litigation. So if you are not having access to the courts directly, then we have got PIL. हमारे behalf पर कोई कोर्ट जा सकता है. Okay, so that was the case. For the common person, access to courts is access to justice. The courts exercise a crucial role in interpreting the fundamental rights of citizen, and as we saw in the above case, the court interpreted Article 21 of the Constitution on the right to life to include right to food. Okay, so there was a case which we haven't dealt, nothing to worry about. बस आर्टिकल 21 की यहाँ पे बात हो रही है, that is right to life and personal liberty, और उसमें क्या बोला गया है, लाइफ कैसे आएगी, खाने से ना, रोटी से. तो right to food is also the part of right to life. Okay. So we have to deal with few other questions here. So let's look at them. Okay, so first question is, you read that one of the main functions of the judiciary is upholding the law and fundamental rights. Do you think an independent judiciary is necessary? Okay, do you think the independent judiciary is necessary to function, to important function? So just the question is, why do you think we need an independent judiciary? Okay, हमने different 3 roles देखे थे अपनी judiciary की, जिसमें से एक था upholding the laws and fundamental rights, and these are possible only because of the independent judiciary. So why do we need an independent judiciary? Okay, then reread the list of fundamental rights provided in chapter 1, and how do you think constitutional remedies connects to the idea of judicial review? So I think it will be difficult for you to answer this question as of now. Don't worry, if you are able to answer it, that's fine enough, but not, then don't worry, we have to read, we have to deal with this judicial review and fundamental rights into the next series, that is class 9 series of NCERT political science. Okay, so what is judicial review, what are fundamental rights, what are constitutional remedies, and all. We will be discussing all of these points further into the next chapters. Initially, as of now, don't worry if you're not able to write this answer. Okay, so the rest, they are not that important. Okay, yeah, there's one question which stands here important. Question number 5. Why do you think the introduction of PIL in 1980s was a step in ensuring access to justice for all? Simply, you have to write down what is the importance of PIL in the Indian democracy. Why into the later 1980s period, Supreme Court came up with a mechanism of justice known as the public interest litigation. How it works, why it works, what are the pros and cons, what are the plus points, minus points and all, and how much impact it has given to the justice system in India, to the judicial system in India. Okay, so these are just the questions which we have to deal with. Nothing to worry about much in detail, because we are just right now till class 9th NCERTs, we are just into the introduction. जो हमारी जो मेजर जो सरदर्द वाली जो चीजें आएंगी ना, that will be from 10th, 11th and 12th onwards. Right now, so it's fine. We can just have an overview itself, nothing to worry about, because ये overview हमारे 10th, 11th, 12th के NCERTs में ही काम आने वाला है. Okay, guys. So that's it with this video. That's it with this chapter 5. Next class we'll be discussing with the chapter 6 into the NCERT class 8 political science series. Thank you. Bye bye. Have a very good day.